There is a script the music industry quietly expects every global star to follow. It has been refined for decades. First, you rise locally. Then you go viral. Then you collaborate with established American icons. You release an English project. You soften your edges just enough to become digestible. You secure late-night interviews. You become broadly relatable. You stabilize. You protect the brand. It's predictable. It's efficient. It's safe. And then there was Bad Bunny. He didn't publicly reject the script. He simply stopped pretending it was necessary. That difference is critical. For most of modern entertainment history, global validation flowed through a narrow channel. Major US labels, American radio, award institutions, late-night circuits. If they anointed you, you were mainstream. If they ignored you, you were regional. That was the hierarchy. Streaming disrupted distribution, but not psychology. Even after platforms decentralized access, many artists continued behaving as if the old gatekeepers still controlled destiny. They still chased crossover validation. They still treated English as a passport. They still adjusted identity to fit existing molds. Bad Bunny did not. He understood something early. Attention had fragmented. Authority had decentralized. Cultural legitimacy was no longer singular. And in a fragmented system, you don't need universal approval. You need concentrated loyalty. So he built loyalty. He didn't rush to assimilate. He didn't dilute his cultural specificity. He didn't treat American recognition as the ultimate milestone. He operated as if the audience itself was the only gatekeeper that mattered. That posture shifts power. When your relevance depends on institutions, you negotiate from vulnerability. When your relevance depends on millions of direct listeners pressing play voluntarily, institutions negotiate with you differently. That's leverage. And leverage changes everything. Notice how he collaborates. Historically, international artists seeking crossover would feature American stars to borrow credibility. The positioning often felt aspirational. With Bad Bunny, collaborations rarely feel like that. They feel reciprocal, sometimes even gravitational, as if others are entering his orbit rather than elevating him into theirs. That is not accidental. It is perception management. Perception shapes negotiation. If the industry believes you need validation, you are dependent. If the industry sees that you generate scale independently, you are optional to them. But they are not optional to you. Optionality is power. Another anti-industry move was how he handled exposure. Modern fame often runs on constant accessibility, daily content, behind-the-scenes intimacy, continuous engagement loops. The algorithm rewards frequency. It punishes silence. He resisted saturation. He did not become a meme factory. He did not overshare his personal life daily. He did not react publicly to every controversy or cultural moment. He maintained presence without becoming omnipresent. That balance preserves aura. Aura is fragile in the digital era. Too much access collapses mystique. When audiences feel they see everything, nothing feels significant. By controlling pacing, he ensured that appearances felt intentional rather than compulsory. Albums felt like eras. Tours felt like events. Statements felt measured. That structure resembles legacy rock icons more than influencer culture. It slows the tempo of fame in a world addicted to speed. Slowing down in a fast system is disruptive. It communicates confidence. Confidence reduces perceived dependency. Dependency is the quiet trap most artists fall into. When you need the next hit to remain visible, you operate in urgency. When you need institutional approval to validate relevance, you compromise. When you need constant media cycles to stay alive, you oversupply. He avoided those traps. He also refused rigid categorization. The industry prefers segmentation. Pop, Latin, urban, alternative. Clear lanes simplify marketing. But he blurred genre boundaries without formally rebranding. Reggaeton, trap, indie textures, experimental production. He moved fluidly without asking to be relocated. Fluidity at scale. Forces systems to adapt. Award categories adjust. Playlist structures integrate. Media language evolves. When you exceed the limits of existing boxes, boxes expand. That is quiet disruption. What makes this blueprint powerful is that it never felt rebellious. He did not position himself as anti-industry publicly. He did not declare independence from the system. He continued participating, but on altered terms. participation without dependency. That distinction is subtle but transformative. He still headlines festivals, he still collects awards, he still signs major deals. But the power dynamic appears inverted. It does not feel like he needs the platform for legitimacy. It feels like the platform benefits from his presence. That perception influences everything from contract negotiations to marketing control. There is also psychological discipline embedded in his trajectory. Many artists, once reaching global success, pivot towards safety. They stabilize their brand, reduce experimentation, protect assets, minimize risk. He continued evolving. Visual experimentation, cultural commentary in selective moments, fashion fluidity, sonic shifts. He did not freeze his identity at the moment of peak commercial viability. Stagnation is the invisible killer of icons. When evolution stops, myth dissolves. By continuously expanding within his own parameters, he avoided becoming static. Another critical element of this anti-industry blueprint is how he handled narrative. He rarely framed himself as a barrier-breaking revolutionary. He did not constantly declare that he was reshaping systems. He simply operated as if no barrier existed. Normalizing expansion is more powerful than announcing rebellion. When you treat your position as natural, the audience accepts it as natural. When you loudly challenge a structure, you risk polarization. When you calmly exceed it, you create inevitability. Inevitability is the highest form of dominance. He rose during a time when monoculture fractured. There is no single MTV moment defining legitimacy anymore. No singular radio gate controlling exposure. No centralized channel dictating taste. Culture now forms through overlapping digital ecosystems. Instead of fighting fragmentation, he thrived inside it. He built depth before breadth. Depth creates loyalty. Loyalty creates stability. Stability creates leverage. And leverage creates independence. Independence is not isolation. It is the ability to choose. If you can release music without radio and still dominate, radio becomes optional. If you can headline festivals without English crossover, crossover becomes optional. If you can shape global trends without assimilation, assimilation becomes optional. When something becomes optional rather than mandatory, it transforms from obligation into choice. Choice is power. The most destabilizing force in any system is not loud opposition. It is a working alternative. When one artist demonstrates that a different path can produce equal or greater results, the old path loses authority. Authority, once weakened, rarely fully recovers. He did not burn bridges. He did not dismantle institutions. He did not attack legacy structures. He simply built a model that reduced their centrality. That is the anti-industry blueprint. It is not chaos. It is not rebellion. It is architectural. Build direct connection. Preserve cultural specificity. Control pacing. Maintain optionality. Expand without announcing expansion. The industry still exists. The awards still matter. The festivals still sell tickets. But the monopoly on validation has fractured. And when validation decentralizes, artists gain bargaining power. That is the real disruption. Bad Bunny did not overthrow the industry. He exposed that it was no longer the only route to dominance. He proved that scale can emerge from authenticity, that leverage can come from loyalty, and that control can be retained in a system designed to extract it. In the long run, that blueprint may matter more than any individual record or tour, because once artists realize they have alternatives, they stop negotiating from fear. And when fear disappears from negotiation, power shifts permanently.